So it has arrived finally, and I think it may have been like a month or two late. My guess is, who knows, maybe there was printing delays, or maybe there was issues just with getting the comic done. Regardless, I don't care. There was transparency around this, and if this was on time, well, even better. I didn't really keep track of it that much. I was just ready for this book to come out and knew it wouldn't be extended by like 800 years. With that all said, Ghost of the Badlands is finally here, and I've read it like 3 or 4 times now, and I'm ready to talk about it a little bit. So, first of all, I want to lead off with the fact that what I like about the layout, the formatting of this comic, because usually I don't talk about these things because really they don't really matter to me. But I feel like for this comic, it's a little bit more of an exceptional conversation because this comic, I got the paperback from the Indiegogo campaign, and this thing was a gigantic thing. It was just like this big bazunga type of thing, and I'll get out shortly. But as I'm seeing, I'm like, holy crap, this is like one of those giant magazines. And when I looked at it, I thought about it, I'm like, oh, okay, this must be more like those old pulpy magazines from like The Shadow, or when the original Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird TMNT 1984 run was a thing. Those were big magazine copies as well. So I'm like, okay, so I think there's definitely some of that influence of those things creeping in terms of the formatting per se, because a lot of those things, even Savage Sword of Conan as well, those are big, huge magazines. They're like, you can almost use them as a weapon per se. So I thought that was really cool. And also, I love that the paper doesn't have like the shining light, the shining glare on it, which is such relief because when I'm trying to read something in the light, it's just like, bro, I don't need that ridiculous sorcery in my life. Please let me see this page free of distractions of the light. So once again, not reflective of the story, just a nice little thing to lead with, to get off with my thoughts on Ghost of the Badlands.
As I suspected, 32 flavors.
So when most people think about westerns, they tend to usually think action or drama. And this story is primarily action first, with a splash of drama second. And this story tells the tale of a man who had done some wrongs in his past, some pretty bad wrongs. And with that, he thought this was it. He thought he had paid for his deeds until he has a second chance bestowed upon him by the ghost of the Badlands, if you will, the title character. And the ghost is simply that. He feels like there's almost like a phantom-like presence, and even though we don't know of him having powers or supernaturalness or magic, he feels like there is a sense of mysticalness to him because he shows up right at the nick of time when the evil is about to accomplish their worst deeds yet. And he definitely has that presence to it. Like when he shows up, all the bad guys are scared, they're running, they're scrambling, because he definitely is like, oh, it's him type of thing. Like, it's freaking cool to see that type of character, that type of presence give such a scare to bad guys, because that's what a hero is supposed to do, is give that type of fear to his enemies. And I love that. And also with the ghost's words too, his words are very few, but they're powerful. They're biblical too. I think they're biblical in nature, and they carry a weight of conviction behind all his actions, because he's not just a man of talk, he's also a man of action. And you definitely notice it. Oh, you notice it. And the man who's been given a second chance, our nameless lead, he gives our man here a play-by-play. Say, hey, you're going to help me infiltrate these ranks. We're going to get a job done. And involves a bunch of authoritative figures, and they are trying to get done a railroad work completion. And it kind of reminded me of a little bit of like a Hell on Wheels type of thing with the railroad type of stuff. Now, I can't remember all the exact details of Hell on Wheels. I can't remember how subtle or great the influences on this particular thing. They could be completely different beasts, but I did get that Hell on Wheels little bit of impression, but not to a point where it felt like a ripoff, but more of like almost like a good nod to that Western story, if you will. So yeah, this story, I was like, okay, so there's authoritative figures, and they're trying to get this job done, but they have a very corrupt means of getting it done. And through this journey, you get to really enter the world of Canyon Diablo in Arizona, and man, in its true grit, it is massive. I mean, just massive. It's grimy, and it's loaded with personalities who are not afraid of getting their hands dirty by any stretch of the means necessary. It's so fortunate that we have a ghost there to balance out all the corruption that runs really deeply rampant in this city, because man, it dominates. it dominates. And, the more you know of Razor, the more you know of his influences. And they are definitely on the subtle touch of his influences. He probably wears them on his sleeve. But once again, not to the point where it takes you out of the story, where it feels like a blatant ripoff, whereas we see a lot of creators nowadays doing that. His influences, they show in really nice, small ways that, once again, it's the more you know type of situation. Like some of the westerns that he loves, they're spoken of in dialogue, which I thought was a really clever way of acknowledging some of those previous westerns. And even his title character, the Ghost, he has a bit of a pulpy feel, something with the top hat and the coat that kind of reminds me of the Shadow. Of course, anyone who knows Razorfist knows he's a big fan of the Shadow, so that should be like a dead giveaway in that regards. But I did love that element. And of course, there could be other influences that I'm missing. I'm moderately versed in westerns, not deeply versed, but still, at least I was like, okay, I'm not totally stupid with westerns. I went from maybe an F to like a C or a D as far as my knowledge of westerns. Though I do got to get acquainted, admittedly. Now, I, for one, am not really familiar with George Alexopoulos' art prior to this story, but I can say after reading Ghost of the Badlands several times, I am absolutely now a fan. I'm not the first one who could be able to tell you his influences. I didn't look into this because I want to keep this review authentic, but I absolutely loved what I saw here. There was, however, one double-page spread that I did think a little bit of like a Ron Garney or Lee Weeks type of thing. That could have been intentional or just a coincidence. Regardless, it was absolutely stunning to look at. Probably my favorite pages of the entire story. But I love it because his black and white story, because I got the black and white monochrome edition, it felt like a really raw visual representation of the material that was placed in front of me with the story. Because there are parts I'm like, man, it looks dry and damp here. Oh man, it looks like it's hot as shit in Arizona. And this part, and his characters all look distinct, and I love the way Arizona looks. It looks like he may have actually gone to some of these spots in Arizona because it looks very authentic. I feel like I was in Arizona at Arizona at the Canyon Diablo. It definitely made me feel like I was in a really lived-in world. So I really absolutely love that he did that. And it almost makes me want to see what the difference is in color. So I may have to seek out a color edition, if you will. Now, the dialogue, though it is light, it's not like a juxtaposition heavy thing of crazy Grant Morrison type of thing. This is really light dialogue. Not to a point where it's just like, oh, there's no story here. What's going on here? This is more of like there's a bit of a less is more approach to this story. And the words that are used here, though, it feels like every single word counts. And it's powerful on top of that. Very impactful in its execution. And the action is outright gorgeous, if that makes any sense, despite all the brutality and the nature of the beast in this situation. Like, dude, this is crazy, but it somehow looks damn good. And the pacing of the story, honestly, is perfect. It doesn't feel like this story came up short. It felt like there was something that was left to be desired. It doesn't feel like I overstayed my welcome either. It doesn't feel like I'm trying to eat food after I feel full on Thanksgiving. So that is really damn cool there. That it really feels like this story it ended at a perfect spot. So my guess is this story had to have been planned out very well. It felt like this is where my story starts and this is where my story ends. And now I get to add my stuff in the middle. I'm guessing this story was the skeleton of something that's been thought of for quite some time, but maybe I'm wrong. That's just my thoughts on this. But yeah, in case you haven't figured out and put two and two together, I'm going to give this story a really strong, huge 8.6 out of 10, if you will. So yeah, this is a bit of a strong recommendation from yours truly, if you will. So go and seek this shit out on Amazon because it's absolutely worth it. Hardcover, soft cover, it don't matter. Just buy the damn thing. And I do have my one question. Is this a story that is going to be based on the Ghost, if you will? Is he going to find new characters to try to redeem along the way, give them their second chance? They're repenting, if you will? Or is this going to be where him and this one guy from the story, they continue a journey together and seek out more missions? I don't know. I thought about that. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but that's what I got out of it. Either way, I think both ideas are good, and whichever one plays out, I don't think there's anything to lose from that. So anyways, those are my thoughts on Ghosts of the Badlands. Anyway, I think it's time for me to shut the hell up now, and you need to go buy this damn comic. And thank you for watching this video, and you lay down your souls to the gods rock and roll.
But I'm not. This is where the law stops, and I start.